Hello, my name is Tia, also known as Costume Fiend because I'm both evil and excessively fond of dressing up. I was thinking about musicals in part because I like them, and in part because I specifically rewatched Disney's Hercules, and the whole soundtrack is still god tier. Disney's Hercules as a whole is kind of worth its own thing though, and I actually wanted to talk about some of the musicals that I love and have seen on stage, but then I decided to narrow it down a bit more, and as the title implies, I'm actually going to be rambling about Sister Act, both the movie and the Broadway show. The plot is largely the same in both, so quick overview. We have the main character Dolores, and she witnesses her boyfriend, who is both married and a gangster, murder someone and runs away, only to be told to hide out in a nunnery by the police until they can catch her ex and have her act as a witness. Dolores, who has always wanted to be a star, has a hard time with this, and while she is influenced by the nuns, she influences them too, and I'd say that about covers it. Given the fact that Dolores is a singer, there's obviously some singing in the movie, but it's not really a musical and it's classified as more of a crime comedy. The musical introduces a romantic subplot, but more on that later, and gives the henchman of Dolores' ex a little bit more to do, and more on that later as well. The movie came out in 1992, which is when it takes place, and I don't remember when or where I first watched it, to be honest. Whereas the musical officially came out in 2006 in Pasadena, California, and I think, that means I saw it in 2011 because that's when it came to Broadway. The show takes place, I believe, during the 70s. Yeah, during the 70s, which, given the music, kind of makes some sense. Personally, I like both, but I do find myself listening to the musical soundtrack more often. Dolores in the movie is played by Whoopi Goldberg, and her boyfriend Vince was actually played by Harvey Keitel. I don't know why that's such a funny combination for me in hindsight, because I brought Whoopi Goldberg and Ray Liotta in the movie Karina Karina. I guess a part of it is the fact that we don't really see them acting super romantic in the movie, because in the beginning she's mad at him and then it's running away from him, so there's not that much actual smooching. Speaking of Dolores running away, I do love the instincts on our girl, because she didn't hesitate to get moving the second she realized it wasn't looking good, and she goes straight to the cops rather than wander the streets or go to her apartment. Also, while Whoopi and Harvey are an odd couple, Whoopi and Maggie Smith are a lot of fun together. Their relationship is probably the movie's center in a way. They clash for all the obvious reasons. Dolores is an African-American nightclub singer who's in a relationship with a married man, and Maggie Smith's character, the Reverend Mother, is a white British lady who has been in the church life for a long time. The fun trope of the character who is clearly not religious saying a prayer sets the tone for Dolores' relationship with the other nuns, the standouts being Sister Mary Roberts and Sister Mary Patrick, played by Wendy McKenna and Kathy Nijime. I was not sure if I pronounced her name correctly, but respectively. And quick sidebar, but speaking of the cast, the girl I got to play younger Whoopi Goldberg was actually a great visual match, and she had the perfect mischievous grin. Back on track though, what's nice about this movie is that it doesn't feel like it's looking down on Dolores or the nuns, and the choice for Dolores to get involved with the choir felt like what they all needed, that and them getting more involved in the community. I know that's kind of the point, but to me that's a sign of a story well told if it gets you pointing out the obvious, but like you get excited about it and want to nerd out more. Also, I feel like some people ship Dolores and Sister Mary Roberts, which I can see, but Sister Mary Patrick definitely gave me queer vibes. I mean, the scene when the three of them go to the bar, she goes from trying to dance with Mary Roberts to a random lady without blinking an eye, just overall energy. And on the note of shipping, while I'm of course in agreement that there could have been some sapphic vibes inserted into the story, I can understand why the musical decided to make Eddie, the cop who put the leading lady in witness protection, and Dolores' love interest, because even though they don't interact much, we do see him genuinely come to care about Dolores' safety on top of trying to do the right thing and catch Vince. Bill Nunn's smile when watching Dolores and the nuns sing sealed the deal, at least for me. Final thoughts on the movie. It's weird because it hit me just now how Dolores could have come across as very magical Negro black woman who fixes white people's problems, but she doesn't, and that's partly because she's the lead and she goes through a lot of character development. It's very fun to watch nuns guilt trip people into doing the right thing, and watch two goons have trouble shooting Dolores because they aren't sure if she's become a real nun, whatever that means. And also shout out to the cute dog that cropped up a few times. 10 out of 10 would watch him get pet by Whoopi Goldberg again. Now moving on to the musical, expanding on some of the changes I mentioned, Dolores' boyfriend was renamed Curtis Jackson. I don't know why, but I mean, I guess that's relatively inconsequential. I don't know if this was also a permanent change, but he is played by a black actor in the version that I saw and in the original opening. His goons are now made up of his nephew and two other guys. Dolores is also not even an established singer at Curtis's club yet. Like I said, Eddie's been upgraded to love interest, although it comes with a pay cut because he's a desk chief as opposed to lieutenant. He and Dolores also apparently went to school together growing up, and the last notable change I can think of is a slight expansion we're given on Sister Mary Roberts' character. So let's get into the music. The first song, Take Me to Heaven, is pretty much Dolores' audition song for Curtis, and it serves the same purpose as the opening songs from the movie. They're meant to be translated from pop rock or disco in some cases, I guess, into something that can also work in a church setting. With that in mind, it's really the reprise of this song that shines, given the context at the end of the first act with the newly rejuvenated choir. The next song, Fabulous Baby, is a standard I'm That Girl song, but it really works well because it's catchy and fun, and Bettina Miller, who I saw, sounded amazing. I love the way this version of Dolores feels a little bit different than the movie, and her reaction to witnessing the murder was hilarious and definitely kind of felt like Bettina Miller made the role her own. The mother's superior character is also a little bit snarkier than her movie counterpart, although Maggie Smith had her moments. It makes sense though for a stage performance because it needs to be a bit bigger. Her first song, Here Within These Walls, is essentially her Fabulous Baby, which establishes who she is and her values. There is a slight Fabulous Baby reprise toward the end of it. It's Good to Be a Nun is up next, and it's somewhat of an exposition song as well as a song that helps introduce the rest of the girls. It's not one I usually revisit without the context of the whole play, but it is necessary, so I can't say it could have been skipped or anything. That being said, let's move on to the villain song, because to the surprise of no one, I can't help but enjoy it problematic in lyrics and all. I mean, it's essentially Curtis describing all the violent things he might do when they find Dolores. And hey, violence against women is no joke, but the song toes that line and makes it work because it's clearly meant to be comically dark. Villain songs like this also have to do a good job at feeling menacing while they're being sung by actors who have probably never had to shoot anyone and are dancing. I think this does that, and it's one of the songs I end up listening to all on its own. I Could Be That Guy is next, and this song is probably the one that surprised me the most when I first saw the show. Now, I'm not always into the whole shoehorned hetero romance thing when adapting a story that didn't already have one, but in this case it feels entirely worth it because of this song. It's another number that does what it's supposed to do and makes us really feel for Eddie. It gets bigger the more confident he starts to feel, and he hits them notes. Plus, he goes from wearing his uniform to wearing a disco outfit to his uniform again, and given how it's set up, I have to imagine he was wearing like multiple tearaway kind of layers, so I'm also impressed for that reason. I also listen to this song without the rest of the musical from time to time. I'm not enough of a music nerd to break this down any further, so on to the next song. Raise Your Voice, aka the number where Dolores starts getting into the whole nun thing and brings new energy into the chorus. I'm not Christian or Catholic or really religious in general, but I can't argue with the idea that if you love God, like why would you want to whisper or sing off key to praise him? For some, speaking broadly, I guess this is kind of the difference between a predominantly white church and a predominantly black one. And as a black person, I'm probably, partial to that way of going about it for that reason too. Not that I've been to that many services, but that, and I can't sit still for shit, so I cannot be bored and lulled to sleep and expected to sit still. That's just torture. Similar to I Could Be That Guy, I love how this song builds as everyone gets into it more and more. In between this and the next song, having found a way to refresh my memory of the musical online, wink wink, I'd forgotten the bit where we cut to the Monsignor saying, and that's why we say Job got off easy in the driest voice, and since I actually understood that reference, that made me laugh like it probably did the first time. That and his clear lack of faith in the choir sounding good as he introduces them equally as dry. I'm aware that the Take Me to Heaven reprise is afoot. It's the end of the first act, and what can I say? It's a certified church bop. Even the Monsignor gets into it, and like in the movie, it draws in a crowd, understandably so. Like I said, this is the version that almost makes it seem like it's the original rather than the reworked church-friendly version. It's now being sung by a whole group and not just Dolores and two backup singers, and that's the perfect way to end Act 1. I'd give you an intermission, but that wouldn't make any sense. Plus, in the musical, it comes about an hour in, and this couldn't be more than, I don't know, 4 minutes right now. Either way, let's get into Act 2. The next song, Sunday Morning Fever, marks the choir's new direction, with the Monsignor now introducing them like the kind of performer Dolores had always wanted to be. The guy is clearly having fun with this. Obviously, if you've experienced the intermission, it does a good job bringing you back into the story and reminding you of the stakes. And I don't mean to brush it aside, but we are coming up on what I've described as one of my favorite necessary, unnecessary songs in any musical I've ever heard. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Lady in the Long Black Dress. Now, If I Could Be That Guy took me by surprise because of the actor's talent and the sincerity of it. This song took me by surprise because it was hilarious. You could probably cut it, but I would hate that. Basically, the context for this one is Curtis telling his henchmen, now that they have Dolores' location, to go to the church and get her. And you know what these guys decide to do? Well, sing about how they'd go about romancing a nun, of course. With such lyrics as, I ain't no pastor, I'm a stone cold master of romance. And, well, put away that rosary, girl, 'cause I'm here to sweep you off your knees. I know what all your vows permit, and I don't mind keeping it immaculate. And porque es Cristo tu hombre exclusivo. I'm sorry for making you hear me speak Spanish, but this was important. It's such a silly number, and it takes the comedy of Vince's goons from the movie and takes it up to an 11. Honestly, context be damned, if you've never watched the musical and are for some reason listening to this and made it this far, honestly, please just hear this song, if for no other reason than to boost your mood. A mood that in the show slows down a bit for Mother Superior singing Haven't Got a Prayer. You can really see where she's coming from and why she struggles with all the changes. Like her character's arc in the movie, there's a genuine desire to help and love for her sisters combined with traditional conditioning that won't let her move forward, and this song is pretty much all of those feelings. It's a good contrast to the next song plus this show because Dolores is now 100% invested in the choir and they are completely used to her and excited to sing. Naturally, that means it's time for the big reveal and for Dolores to leave. As she packs her things, Sister Mary Robert asks her if she could join her and sings The Life I Never Led. It's an interesting song because it kind of feels like the I Want song that the heroine sings at the beginning of the movie, but it's toward the end of the story. In the movie, as I said earlier, some people seem to ship Dolores and Mary Robert, which can work there, but I feel like in the musical, the relationship mostly gives me older sister or little sister. And this song in particular, when she's looking to Dolores for guidance, cements that for me. It's sweet and shows that Dolores really influenced the girls on an individual level and not just as a whole group. Anyway, she tells Mary Robert that she needs to make that kind of choice on her own, and Robert takes that to heart. Dolores is now staying with Eddie the night before she can testify, and Eddie, clearly feeling a bit more confident, starts off the Fabulous Baby reprise, and it actually hits differently as a song coming from someone else to the person they clearly like. It was very cute, and it was a small moment I'd kind of forgotten. After he leaves the room, Dolores gets back into it and starts to imagine the possibilities of her star-powered potential. She can't help but think about the sisters she left behind and can no longer think just about herself. This then blends into the song Sister Act. It's a beautiful transition, and again, Bettina Miller's performance is what helps sells it. A lovely time to then have a When I Find My Baby reprise, which is actually really short and there's not much to say about it. It's just kind of a sinister little moment to set up for the final confrontation. Because Dolores is now back at the church, and even though Mother Superior is now concerned that Dolores is putting them in danger, Mary Roberts stands up for her, and there's a Life I Never Led reprise. It's also short, but it was touching to see her consider helping Dolores as a part of her calling. And then cue the Scooby-Doo style chase sequence when the reprise is interrupted by Curtis and Co. A fun thing to pull off on a stage. There's a humorous moment where the henchman, who pretty much only speaks Spanish, has his thoughts translated by one of the nuns, who's also trying to copy his intensity. Dolores is able to quickly return the favor for Mary Robert and gets in the way of Curtis trying to hurt her. Dolores calls back to Take Me to Heaven before going into Sister Act again, which allows her to be brave. This gives Eddie enough time to injure Curtis and give Dolores a kiss before her performance for the Pope. Dolores and Mother Superior have a great final moment, and we end on Spread the Love Around. My final thoughts on the musical are as follows. I love the music, and even though I have obvious favorites, the whole thing was fun to listen to. I wasn't really bothered by any of the differences between it and the movie, and think that the story translated well to the stage. I will say that given the nature of the medium, some of the moments definitely hit in the film a little better because they're allowed to be more subdued, but that doesn't take away from the emotional beats in the musical on the whole. I'd recommend both if you like musicals and if you've seen one but not the other. Other than that, feel free to leave a like if you liked, subscribe for more nerdy rambling, and as always, have a good one.